takes an instant. Fear swallows you before you have a chance to make sense of it. And darkness becomes a part of who you are.
This week on Create, Consume, Repeat, I take a look at how video games are addressing depression, anxiety, and isolation through metaphor, design, and game mechanics. So stay tuned. With depression and suicide on the rise and conversation around mental health growing louder, it's comforting to see game developers tackling the subject matter with such earnestness. Video games like Sea of Solitude ask players to navigate a submerged city while fending off a multitude of horrific creatures that represent loneliness and isolation. Yet it's the environmental puzzles that perfectly capture our constantly fluctuating emotional state that, if ignored, threaten our well-being and relationships with others. Thankfully, solving these puzzles reward us with emotional payoffs that focus on self-discovery and healing.
Sunny, I know you're in there. I won't let them hurt you anymore, I promise.
Add pools of grabbing hands and hordes of demonic children that you must ignore or defeat, and it's clear that designer Cornelia Geppert isn't just examining isolation, but other serious topics like bullying.
Your papa is such a weirdo.
When humans get too lonely, they turn into monsters. This is at the core of everything you will see, hear, and hopefully feel while playing SOS. What makes this underlying concept so important and so unique is that nearly every human being can at least somehow relate to or remember the feeling of being lonely.
Another noteworthy game, Celeste, examines depression, anxiety, and self-doubt through a protagonist who must conquer a mountain that clearly represents emotional obstacles that stand in her way. It would be easy to dismiss this platformer as nothing more than a Super Meat Boy clone, but that would be doing it a disservice, since Celeste delicately marries amazing game mechanics like complex jump puzzles, trial and error, and outsmarting your shadow, which is obviously a metaphor for self-doubt, with sharp observations about modern-day pressures that cause us anxiety and depression. Take, for example, game developers Matt Thorson and Noel Berry's brilliant observation and commentary on depression and anxiety oftentimes being hidden directly in front of us on social media channels like Instagram, and how we easily ignore it with a filter. It's sad, really. But it's not all grim observations. They do a great job of balancing it with positivity, like reminding us that our death count shouldn't discourage us, since failure plays a fundamental role in learning and improving. Lastly, we have Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, a game that painstakingly explores psychosis and paranoia by putting you in the shoes of a picked warrior on a quest to save the soul of her dead lover, all while fighting the voices in your head.
Dillian! They're coming for me!
Sure, I can gush about its gorgeous visuals, but the real genius lies in the tightly woven interplay of puzzle mechanics and sound design. See, Hellblade forces players to solve puzzles by shifting their perspective to solve these puzzles and unlock paths, while the voices in your head constantly cause you to doubt your every move, which in turn leaves you frustrated, lost, and at times feeling helpless.
The hardest battles are fought in the mind. He gave her the sword with which to fight in more ways than one. And she gave him her word, never to surrender.
Add in permadeath, and this sense of anxiety and tension is further heightened. These simple yet elegantly implemented mechanics create a real sense of dread never before seen or felt in gaming. And that's because Ninja Theory used cutting-edge real-time motion capture technology to animate and render Melina Juergen's incredible performance, which not only fleshes out the character, but humanizes mental illness. See, by working closely with neuroscientists, mental health specialists, and people suffering from the condition, Ninja Theory properly represents psychosis.
Mental health hasn't always been presented in the media in a way that is particularly helpful. It can be challenging to engage people with the subject matter, and there are a lot of preconceived ideas about mental health, and particularly schizophrenia and psychosis. So we hope our support allows the team to continue to collaborate with Paul Fletcher and with those who have experience of psychosis to create a game that provides a fresh perspective on the condition and allows audiences to engage with it in a way that just wouldn't be possible in any other medium.
Obviously, each one of these games deserves a whole episode all their own, but this episode isn't about any one particular game. It's about illustrating that video games are an art form unlike any other. As mentioned in previous episodes, like my examination of Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, video games allow us the ability to play an active role in the story, which grants us the opportunity to experience the emotional impact of our choices and decisions. And this is extremely important because, again, these games may be tailored towards people that are suffering from depression, anxiety, and isolation, but they also serve a greater purpose, and that is allowing us to empathize with those in need. And honestly speaking, if we aren't dealing with some form of anxiety, isolation, or depression ourselves, we probably know someone that does. And a glimpse of it grants us the ability to empathize with them, even if it's only for a moment. And that moment just might be enough to help them. And look, I'm no medical expert, but as a professional working in the creative industry that has created award-winning campaigns that revolve around empathy, I can say with certainty that this is the type of creative work we should be supporting.
To embrace even your destructive part or your self-doubt in the same way you embrace your joy or your hope. This is what being human is all about. And that's what our game is all about.
That'll do it for this episode of Create, Consume, Repeat. And you know the drill. Hit the like and subscribe buttons. It's my only way of knowing you appreciate the effort I put into making these episodes. And lastly, don't forget to tell all your friends. Peace.